we have beaming in here? Kendrick Perkins, the last guy who raised a championship banner with the Boston Celtics. Were you on a duck boat out there, Perk?
No, listen, here's the thing, right? To all the teams and organizations that just won, previous championships, if you want to see how a real parade looks, what it looks like, that's a prime example right there. Close to 2 million people outside.
They say there's nothing like winning in Boston. Zach Lowe, it's a parade, it's a party wherever you go. It's a party in L.A. because Bobby Marks, our front office insider, is here in studio. I'm Malika Andrews. But while the Boston Celtics, they are celebrating their record 18th banner, the Los Angeles Lakers, they are hoping that they can get one step closer to matching them after agreeing to a 4-year contract with J.J. Redick to become the team's next head coach. Now remember, J.J. played 15 years in the NBA and stayed close to the league after retiring. His role, of course, as an analyst with ESPN. But this will be his first high-level coaching role in any capacity. So let's just take another look at the head coaches who have been in the NBA without any prior coaching experience. Steve Kerr, he'd been a general manager, but not a coach before taking the Warriors job. He won a title in his first year, 73 games his second, while leading the Dubs to 4 titles in 8 seasons. So really the standard there. 2-time MVP Steve Nash, he'd worked in player development with Golden State, but didn't have any formal coaching experience. He took the helm at the Nets, remember the super team, but never got past the second round. And then Doc Rivers debuted with the Magic at the age of 38, won Coach of the Year honors his first year. He's still coaching 25 years later, winning a title with Perk and the 08 Celtics. And then Jason Kidd took over the Nets' top job after the season after he retired as a player. He went 44-38 the first year, and now a decade later reached his first finals as a coach with the Dallas Mavericks. So take a look at this. Redick will be the 5th rookie head coach to coach LeBron James. All 4 previous rookie coaches reached at least the second round with LeBron, winning a title with Ty Lue in 2016 with the Cavaliers. So there's plenty of challenges that come with being a first-year head coach at all, let alone the pressure cooker that is the Los Angeles Lakers here. But knowing the expectations that are on LA, Perk, knowing that LeBron James is not getting any younger, how patient can the Lakers afford to be here?
Well, I mean, they have no choice but to be patient. It's all about LeBron James, right? And maximizing, the rest of his career. And when you look at the Lakers and you talk about the expectations of that organization, especially from the fan base, it's championship or bust. Now, is that a realistic expectation? Hell no. Now, a realistic expectation is, at bare minimum, you reach at which at least at which your previous coach got you to. And Darvin Ham got them to the postseason. Obviously, that was through the play-in tournament. But I think, anytime you have LeBron and AD, it's hard to be patient, especially at this point of their career. You have LeBron at the tail end, you have AD in his prime. So it's like you kind of got to build for the future and build for now. Yeah. So again, they obviously got their work cut out for them, Malika, but, I think they still got to make the playoffs, at least the second round, to be honest with you.
And that's the challenge as far as try to win now, but also look out to the future 2 or 3 years from now when maybe LeBron James is not on this roster right now. And I think when you look at it, I've said all along, this is probably one of the hardest jobs in professional sports. When you have one of the top players of all time with LeBron James and the window is closing here, it's a win-now team without a win-now roster. And I think Perk hit it right on the head. I think the expectation is kind of where you were a year ago or a couple months ago, losing to Denver in the first round.
Yep.
If you get back there, I know Laker fans don't want to hear it. It still could be considered a good season.
I think the big concern for the Lakers is this past year may have been the healthiest that you're going to get LeBron and Anthony Davis. And you need to do it again. They are the ceiling for this team. How they are on the floor, how available they are, that dictates the ceiling for this Los Angeles Lakers team. And there are really 13 teams now, Utah and Portland, that really could be competing in the Western Conference next year. So the Lakers, it's not just about J.J. Redick in place now. Now it's about what's next. So what do you think needs to come next year, Zach?
I wonder, are the Lakers hearing this? Are their fans hearing this? Or is Laker exceptionalism just going to sort of take over what their expectations are? The team is what it is. It's a good team. If you win 46, 47 games in that Western Conference, you're a good team. But this Western Conference is different than the one that was 2 years ago when the Lakers made it all the way to the conference finals. It's deeper, it's better, it's just a completely different animal. And J.J. Redick is a first-year coach, period, with apologies to his son's teams, who I guess we're not counting as high-level basketball. And look, I know J.J., he's not going to get outworked. It's going to be hard to outthink him. He's going to be tactically, right away, one of the better coaches in the league. Doing that in real time, though, matching the best coaches second for second, adjustment for adjustment, there's a learning curve to that. You got to be willing to live with that learning curve, which means you got to be willing to live with this coach in a post-LeBron world. This should be a signal that you're planning for the next 4, 5, 6 years beyond this window, which is probably going to belong to Minnesota and Dallas and Denver and Oklahoma City and all the other elite teams in the West.
And that's very, very true, but LeBron James is on the team now. And anytime you have chemistry with your superstar leader, that is something that is an advantage. And I don't know if you guys have heard, but J.J. Redick, LeBron James, they have a podcast together. Take a listen.
Hypothetically say, I'm on your team.
Yep.
You got to drop a ATO for me.
This is the ATO?
Yeah.
And we're a pretty good team. I'm on your team.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the 4. And this is me.
Is your son's team, they're running this type already?
Yeah. I remember we played you guys a few times that year, and I'm on the point guard, and you're just like, come here every time. LeBron.
That's T. Lou, man. No, that's not me. You know my basketball IQ is not that good.
I just hit play on that.
I already know what the this play is. You me up.
What happened here? What happened here?
What happened here is that I didn't know that your ass could go and stop and go like this. What the I didn't know that you had that in your arsenal.
If I had made that shot, I would have that highlight pinned on every social media account. Should not be on YouTube as a highlight. You know why it's
on YouTube? Because it was against me. Everything is on YouTube. If it's done against me, no matter if it's a highlight or not, everything.
Oh, my goodness. That might have been a bleep record for a clip we've played on this show. But in all seriousness, 2 of the sharpest basketball minds, and that's such a unique look. We don't usually get to see that between a star player and now their head coach, and they are on the same team now. So, Zach, what is success on the court for these two now that we've seen it play out in podcast form?
First of all, who gets the wine from the podcast? Can I give them my home address and they can send me the wine? Because we're running a little low at Casa Low. Look, success, I think, is top 6 seed, avoid the play-in, and either a super competitive first-round loss or you win a round. The matchups dictate it, the luck dictates it, whatever, and you're in the second round of the playoffs. From there, it's just whale after whale after whale in the West to get through, and I think anything more than that is going to be a pretty tall order, but that would be a success. The question is, do the Lakers brass consider that a success?
Right.
How realistic are their expectations going to be?
So what do the Lakers do here, Bobby? You've been in these front offices. D'Angelo Russell has a decision to make. LeBron James, I mean, we would guess that he will be back on the roster in some sort of capacity, but what are you prioritizing this offseason?
I'm prioritizing next Wednesday, the 17th pick in the draft. I know they have the 55th pick on Thursday, but it all starts with Wednesday, finding a guy that can come in and play right now. A guy that's a 3 or 4 year guy, or maybe an impact player, a player like Jared McCain from Duke. Guy can come in and make shots, and that kind of sets the tone as far as where your bench. And then it's D'Angelo Russell. We talk about LeBron James a lot having this player option. Likelihood is LeBron James is back in Los Angeles. It's just a matter of how long the contract. D'Angelo Russell dictates the flexibility the Los Angeles Lakers have this offseason by either opting in or signing at less or maybe going out and signing with another team, because the ability to go out and make a trade, the ability to take back money is really controlled by D'Angelo Russell's salary here. So that, a lot of it is what will be in play over the next week and a half here.
And all of this, Perk, to essentially be in that top 6 conversation out of the play-in, something that LA wasn't able to do this year.
Yeah, and look, we don't know what it's going to look like. I can't tell you what success look like because I don't believe that they're finished. And when you look at the Boston Celtics, who just won the championship, what did they have? They had spacing, right? When you acquire Kristaps Porzingis, you get Drew Holiday, Derek White to go around Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And when I think about JJ, and a lot of times when he spoke about the Lakers when he was working with us, he talked about the spacing. So if you're the Lakers, you got to go out and try to find shooting. I love what Bobby said about the 17th pick. It's going to be interesting. You got to have shooting when it comes down to surrounding players and getting the personnel around LeBron and AD. Or you go out and you try to get a third star. I think they will be aggressive. I think at the end of the day, they know that they need to maximize the most out of LeBron James. But let's be real. Anthony Davis is in the middle of his prime.
Yep.
Anthony Davis just came off arguably the best year of his career last year. All defensive, all NBA teams. And so at the end of the day, they just getting started with JJ, but they got to move fast.
I think what's interesting, and we didn't show that on a clip there, is they were talking about building a roster out. As far as, and LeBron put a CBA hat on. And he said, under this CBA, it is extremely challenging to go out and get a third star and then have your depth. They use Boston as a great example as far as going out and getting Derek White, and then you have Sam Hauser and Al Horford and Peyton Pritchard. So I know the Lakers have their pick on Wednesday. They got 17. A 2029 first, a 2031. We're going to hear about Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura. I think you have to be careful going after that third star because it basically leaves you really empty as far as what your bench is.
Plus, they have a pretty good starting five. We don't know a lot of what's on their bench.
And that's the biggest thing for J.J. Redick is consistency as far as with your starting lineup.
Right, and with their bench, there are players that we didn't get to see a whole lot of because of different injuries this year. So they kind of have some decisions to make if they want to be one of those top 6 teams in the West. But you brought up the champs, so we're going to get to them. The Duck Boat, Alex Caruso, starting with the OKC side of this. Zach, what does Caruso add for the Thunder?
Oh boy, be very afraid. Be very, very afraid. Shooting, defense, the amount of steals this team is going to get is going to be ridiculous. You have to guard him. He rounds out an already great team. Yeah,
the deflections that he is going to get, insane. All right, so let's go to the Bulls end of this trade. Alex Caruso has been a target for a while. So why did they make this move now, Bobby?
Well, we've been waiting 2 years for Lonzo Ball to come back. Now it gives them a 6'7" guard, playmaker. Now the big question is what's next? Right? Are they going to take a step back and rebuild? Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan's a free agent here. That's going to be the big question for Chicago this offseason.
So this kind of flew under the radar, but this is huge. The Sacramento Kings have locked up Malik Monk with a 4-year, $78 million deal. Monk finished second in Sixth Man of the Year voting. Remember, Perk, were you surprised he didn't enter or test at least free agency?
Hell no. I mean, think about it, right? When you pair him along, De'Aaron Fox, especially in the fourth quarter, Malika, they one of the most electric backcourts in the NBA. There was times where he was actually bringing them home, and he feel like it's home. Malik Monk has had his journey. At the end of the day, it feels like a family. Great move by the Sacramento Kings and great move by Malik Monk to stay put.
He's an energizer whenever he comes in. He might have had one of the early dunks of the year last season as well. It's kind of crazy that it's early. Free agency doesn't start for another 9 days, but we've already seen these significant moves. So, Zach, what do you think has been the biggest move of the offseason so far, even though we're not even officially in it yet?
I think you got to look at Caruso to the Thunder. This was the #1 seed last year, and yet we saw in the playoffs teams did not guard Josh Giddey. They put their centers on Josh Giddey and clogged up the lane. They might try that with Alex Caruso, but he very quietly shot 41% on threes last year and took a lot more of them than before. We know what he is defensively. He's a monster, and you put him with Dort and SGA and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. They could be the #1 or 2 defense in the NBA next year. They're going to be better offensively. It's a better fit. It's the first big, aggressive win-now move that Sam Presti has made really since putting this team together. They're going to be fearsome next year and have a shot to go deeper into the playoffs.
You know what Alex Caruso is? He's a champion. He's a champion. He's bringing championship experience to a young, good ball club, a great ball club. So he's going to be a leader defensively. We saw what happened to them this past postseason in the playoffs when they went up against the Mavs. Right, he's going to take that pressure off the perimeter to defend guys like Luka and Kyrie because Perimeter defense is a must, especially when you're talking about in the Western Conference, when you got to go against the likes of Steph Curry, Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards, Luka, Kyrie, Jamal Murray. Like, you need as much perimeter defense as you possibly could get.
Right.
That's what Alex Caruso is going to bring, along with his tenacity and championship mindset.
But we haven't seen, we kind of were wondering, okay, were the Oklahoma City Thunder going to make a move last year? They were the #1 seed, and Sam Presti and their front office brass said, you know what, we're going to let this bake. We're going to see what we have before we start messing with anything here. So do you think that they're done? Do you think we could see more moves for OKC?
I don't think they're done, and I think, you know, they went into the series, the year as the #1 seed. They used it kind of an experiment as far as figuring out what works. And
what an
the
experiment to be able to make,
to be
right?
the #1 seed and lose in the second round and be like, okay, this is kind of what we need to do. And I think they realized they had 2 ball handlers in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. Josh Giddey did not fit. Okay, he goes out. Alex Caruso comes in. The big thing is no draft picks went out. They still got the kitty of 15 first-round picks. The big $31 million in cap space. They do not go out and sign free agents. That is not their MO. They go out and build through the draft and trade for players. So now will they go out and spend that money in free agency? You got to spend 90% of it.
Well, and spend picks.
Yes, you've got to spend it. So for me, real quick, I'd go out and get Nick Claxton. I'd go out and put a 2-year offer down of like $60 million. And that's my center next to Chet Holmgren.
Interesting, because what have we talked about? The need for another big here for Oklahoma City. So OKC was the #1 seed in the Western Conference, but out in the East, the #1 seed, they ended up taking home the cake, the Boston Celtics, and that's who everyone is chasing. The championship parade is today. Boston had theirs. Here's some of our favorite all-time moments.
Can you dig it? Splash Brothers, yep. Cavaliers, nope.
Believe it, Cleveland. Savor it.
You know that I told that I don't want to stay on parade, but I want to stay on parade. This is the best.
Right now, to this day, we are on top.
Okay, with the moves there. Boston, though, was in celebration mode this afternoon, celebrating the Celtics' 18th title. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, the entire team, they were in those famous duck boats. Perk, what's the best part of all of this?
Of all of what? The parade?
Yeah.
It's the parade. Look, when you're riding through the city and you have millions of people standing there screaming your name, giving you your flowers, sitting on light poles, hanging out of windows, you don't want it to stop. I'm going to tell you this. I want
There he is.
There we go. There we go.
The
There you
camcorder.
go. Babyface Perk. You see me? Yeah. I had a camcorder. I don't know where the footage at, though. But that's Babyface Perk right there. You got to live in the moment. I couldn't wait. I wanted to get back to that moment right there so bad. The parade. That's the best part of winning the championship.
Well, it certainly looks like the Celtics are having a great time. It's hard to get back there, though. The Celtics are the favorites to repeat, according to ESPN Bet. Take a look here, plus 280 odds, followed by the Nuggets, the Wolves, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. For 6 years, we have gotten a different champion. That's tied for the longest streak that we've seen in NBA history. How hard is it to run it back, do you think, Bobby, after winning a title?
Well, I think certainly now you're the hunted.
Yes.
Right? Instead of the team that's going after the Denver or a team that won it last year. I think it's extremely hard. But this team is different. They returned the same starting 5 that just won a championship. You've got depth with Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser. You're going to add a draft pick with the 30th pick in the draft to build to your bench. I know your finances are getting up there. You're going to sign Jason Tatum to a Supermax contract here, but this team is poised to repeat. Of course, injuries will potentially could come into play, but they are the prohibited favorite going into next year.
I do have one very important update here, Bobby, from the parade. If you were concerned about our front office guru, Bobby Marks, being in studio today, we're going to get off the blocks with a little on your marks. Bobby Marks. Get set. Go. So we're going to start with the biggest name that could potentially hit the market, Paul George, the 9-time All-Star's future. It remains unclear. He has until June 29th to decide whether to opt in or out of his current contract with the Clippers. And PG, he spoke about what he hopes to accomplish with whatever team he plays for on his latest podcast. Take a listen.
for sure contributing to winning basketball. But I mean, at this point, I'm not even necessarily like, it's not even about like, people saying chasing a championship. Like, it's not that. But it's playing the right style of basketball.
Okay, the right style of basketball. But where, PG? Where the right style of basketball? So, Zach, I'm going to start with you here. Where do you think he fits best? Is it staying with LA's big three, Kawhi, James Harden, moving to maybe, I don't know, Philadelphia with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, taking his talents elsewhere? What do you think, Zach?
Well, the beauty of Paul George's game is he fits anywhere. He's one of the most adaptable players in the league. He can play anywhere alongside any kind of star. Which of those big three is better, though? Given what we've seen in LA with injuries every year, and Joel Embiid gets injured a lot too, I think that Philly big three is a little bit more dangerous, has a little bit more upside, and you know what the best part of it is? They're in the East, not the West. But Paul George can fit anywhere, helps every team. He holds all the cards as we start free agency. He is the first domino.
Perk, where do you see this domino falling? Do you agree with Zach?
I would like to see Paul George in Philly, to be honest, which I think that's the best fit. But here's the thing, Malika. It's all about what do Paul George want, right? I hear him saying playing basketball the right way, but what does that mean? Because what is his definition of the right way? Is that a lot of action? Is that him having the ball in his hands more? Is him playing, can he play with James Harden? Like, those things are the questions. And so when you start to think about it at this point in his career, I would think he would start thinking about championships. When we were on countdown for Game 4, I asked him that question, him and Joel Embiid, about actually being there for Game 4 and being able to be in the environment of the finals. It should give you that itch to make you want to get to the NBA Finals and compete for a championship. So at the end of the day, we know what type of player, elite two-way player Paul George is. I just want to know, when he say those type of things,
right,
what is he actually getting at? What is his style of play?
Well, let's see if Bobby Marks can help us read these tea leaves a little bit. Bobby, what are a couple of ways that you see this playing out for Paul George?
Yeah, he's got three options.
Okay, three options.
First option is to re-sign with the Los Angeles Clippers. But that option's been there since last July. He's been extension eligible since last July 1st for 4 years, $221 million. There has not been a deal reached as of yet. We basically have about 9 days to get there. The second option is to go into free agency. And now here's where you're looking at. Certainly, here's your wild card team, right? A little bit less money. They've got the full max to go out and get him.
Yep.
Right? They can go out and get Paul George. And then I think the third option, certainly, can you force a trade, right? Can you force a trade as far as, and if he opts into his contract, if we see that happen in the next week, I could see certainly him being traded. I put Golden State up here, just a hypothetical.
Okay.
I'm not breaking news here.
I'm leaning forward,
but
though.
Certainly, how do you opt into your contract and then get to a championship team? Now, there's a lot of math. We don't have enough time to do it on here. But that's what your goal would be if you opt into your contract. It's a lot easier than doing a sign and trade and then ask to be traded, similar to what Chris Paul did back in 2017 when he went to Houston in that trade here. But those are your three options. You resign with the Clippers, but on their terms. You go out and sign with a team like Philadelphia potentially, or you opt in and then ask to be traded.
Well, since you brought up the Golden State Warriors, since you brought them up, let's turn our attention to someone that we know is set to hit the free agency market, and that is Klay Thompson. The four-time champion spent his entire career with Golden State, but he was moved to the bench late in the season for the first time since his rookie year. So Kendrick Perkins, there's so many tax implications, mumbo-jumbo here, but do you think the best course of action for the Warriors is to run it back with Klay, who is 34 years old, or to move on?
To move on. I think it's best for both parties, to be honest with you, Malik. A fresh start for Klay Thompson, a fresh start for the Golden State Warriors. I would like Golden State to go get a guy like Jordan Clarkson, or try to get him, right? Get some more offensive firepower, some more youth in the building, and also build and see what Jonathan Kuminga. We saw him take those steps last year. What is he going to do coming off of offseason and the experience that he got from last season? Is he going to continue to grow and build towards an all-star caliber player?
Zach, what do you think here?
Y'all know me. I'm a romantic. I want to see these three guys, Steph, Clay, and Draymond, play together forever, running circles around the court. But you know what? Of those three players, we know Steph's not going anywhere. Draymond is a pretty unique piece. He doesn't fit everywhere. Klay Thompson fits anywhere. And there would also be something cool about seeing him say, you know what? I want to prove I can make big shots in another place. I can do it anywhere, and see him have a late career sort of swerve. Look, we don't always get what we want romantically. And we saw Dwayne Wade leave Miami and go to Chicago. We've seen these icons move around every once in a while. Of the three, I think Klay has pathways that could be interesting and kind of cool to watch. So win-win. There's some hard feelings between the Warriors and Klay. I think they need to be mended if he's going to go back.
I thought you were going to hit the Rolling Stones with me there, Zach. I guess not today. Yeah, go ahead, Perk.
Malik, I didn't expect on this Friday to be talking about romance with Zach Lowe.
You know what? The thing about Zach is you never know what is going to come when we are talking about Zach Lowe. But we do know if we're talking about love, what the Warriors love to do, right, is target big game here. So if Klay does decide to go elsewhere, Bobby, I turn to you. What does that open up for Golden State in their heart?
Yeah, I mean, keep an eye on Chris Paul here. Now, here's where Golden State is right now, $174 million. The luxury tax is $171. That dreaded first apron is $178 million. They're nearing that. Chris Paul's date is June 28th. His contract becomes guaranteed. If Chris Paul comes off, now that goes down to $145 million. Now you have the flexibility to potentially go out and make a trade, the ability to go out and aggregate the contract of Andrew Wiggins. Now, if you put Klay Thompson back in and you put him back over, that goes back up to where you're at the luxury tax.
Right.
So Joe Lacob has been on the record saying we want to spend a tax. We don't want to be in the apron here. So keep an eye on Chris Paul. That number coming off, that gives them the flexibility to go out and make a trade this offseason.
Okay, so that's what Golden State has going on. Let's end with a few players that aren't free agents, but they have very telling contract negotiations, let's say, coming up this summer. Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram are just a few players that can mutually agree to extend their deals with their current teams. So I turn back to you, Love Dr. Lowe. Extension discussions, which ones are you going to be monitoring? Which relationships are you going to be keeping the closest eye on this offseason?
All of them. That's my job. But of these three, the spiciest ever since Pat Riley's end of season press conference is Jimmy Butler. That was a pretty clear telegraph that, hey, man, we're not going to give you the full boat. You just haven't played enough games. Jimmy could be going into the last year of an expiring contract if he wants to. That's got all sorts of spicy possibilities to it, including he just plays it out in Miami, or maybe down the line they come to terms on a shorter extension. But he's still a superstar at the tail end of his superstar prime. That's one to watch.
What about you, Perk?
I'm going with Jimmy Butler as well. I'm hearing reports from Wendy saying that the Heat most likely is not going to trade him. I see some reports circulating that the Heat are considering trading him. UD said Jimmy ain't going nowhere. Well, I got mixed emotions. At the end of the day, look, where do the Heat go if they move on from Jimmy Butler? Seriously, they go back to a rebuilding stage. But if they keep Jimmy Butler, are they a legit title contender with the roster that they have? I like Bam Adebayo. I like Tyler Hero. I like Terry Rozier. I don't love them, especially when it comes down to putting them in the category with the teams out there that's going to be contending for a title next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy's going to be one to watch. I think Donovan Mitchell as well, if he does decide to stay, what ramifications does that have for a Darius Garland or other players? They want to be able to say that they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. They haven't gotten there quite yet. Days away from the NBA draft. It's one of my favorite nights of the year, but there's just so many questions that remain in this one. So let's start at the very top. The Atlanta Hawks, they're on the clock, and according to ESPN Bet, Zachary Reese, Donovan Clingan, Alex Sarr. They have the shortest odds to go number one. Bobby, should Atlanta keep this pick or trade it?
I am keeping that pick. I think you can't chase the ghost of the DeJounte Murray trade and try to recoup some of those draft picks you traded to San Antonio. So if it's a player like Donovan Clingan, even though you have Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu, the likelihood is that those two players will not be on your roster the length of Donovan Klingen's contract. So I am keeping that pick.
Okay, well, let's move on to San Antonio, who own both the number 4 and number 8 overall picks. So, Perk, do you think the Spurs should try to maybe make a trade here with their picks to acquire a player for Wemby, or keep their 2 lottery picks here?
Oh, they got to package them up. I'm going the complete opposite of Bobby on this one when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs. We're talking about Victor Wembanyama, Malika. One can make a case that he got a chance to be the best player in the league next year on both sides of the floor. That's how special of a talent he is. And if you're the Spurs, you got to show him that you're committed to him by surrounding him with another all-star caliber player.
I was listening to you, Perk, but I'm mesmerized by those Wembanyama highlights. Last but not least, Bronny James projected to go number 55 to the Lakers in our latest mock draft, but ESPN Bet's odds have his prop bet at 42.5. So, Perk, do you think he goes before or after 43 in the draft?
I think he goes after 43, but long as he get drafted, I'm okay, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just the start of your journey when you get drafted. It's not when you're going to finish. So Bronny just needs an opportunity, but I think he goes after 43. He might go where Javonte got him listed at 55.
Well, and by all accounts, he really helped himself at the Combine in Chicago. Speaking of the odds, you can just see here the odds at the number 1 pick. We've seen some movement this week between Sarr and Risa Shea. So let's try to make sense of this, welcoming in our draft expert, Jonathan Givony. Jonathan, why do you think we have seen these odds flip so much this week?
Well, to be frank, they saw our mock draft that came out with some new intel about Alex Sarr's intentions. Alex Sarr has not yet visited the Atlanta Hawks. He has visited the Washington Wizards. Zachary Risa-Shea has visited the Hawks. Donovan Klingen has visited the Hawks. Those two are the favorites right now to go number 1. Alex Sarr sees the writing on the wall in Atlanta. They have a logjam at the 4 and the 5 positions. Jalen Johnson is the starting power forward of the future there. Onyeka Okongwu just signed a $62 million extension that kicks in now. The Washington Wizards, on the other hand, don't have a lot going at the 5 position. Marvin Bagley, Rashawn Holmes. Alex Sarr is looking at that depth chart and saying, I'd rather be in Washington. Right. That's what I think.
So this is why, everybody, we need to read the mock draft. This is where all the goodies are hidden, even the 14,000 words that Jonathan Givony published today. But, Givony, let's stick here with Alex Sarr. There are fans, right? He played overseas. He played for Overtime Elite that aren't familiar with his game. So for those who haven't seen him play, what is a team getting?
They're getting a 3-point shooting, rim-protecting big man who has the potential to be a unicorn in the vein of Kristaps. 7'1", 7'5" wingspan, moves exceptionally well. Every NBA team is looking for a guy who can stretch the floor, allow you to play that 5-out offense, but at the same time, be a versatile defender who can protect the rim, switch on pick and roll, rim run, finish. Alex Sarr has the potential to do all those things, and that's why NBA teams are looking at him. A guy like Nick Claxton on the defensive end, that's another comp for Alex Sarr. Just the way that the versatility that he brings defensively, the shot blocking, the switchability, the ability to cover ground. Those are the things that Alex Sarr brings to the table. That's why he's so intriguing to NBA teams, especially the Washington Wizards at number 2.
You can see his measurables right there. Certainly one of the more unique talents in this 2024 draft. And Jonathan Givony has him mocked number 2 right now to the Washington Wizards. This is your time of year. We're going to be seeing you all the time leading up to the draft next week. Thank you so much for making the time out of your busy schedule.
Radiant Club của chúng tôi. Bây giờ các bạn cùng tôi thực hiện cách làm nhé. Hôm nay thì mình sẽ hướng dẫn cho các bạn cách làm một chiếc vòng tay có tên của một MC analyst, đó là Radiant Club. Và để làm được cái vòng tay này thì các bạn sẽ chuẩn bị cho mình phần dây này. Đây ở đây thì mình sẽ sử dụng là dây cước co giãn, các bạn có thể thay thế bằng dây chu nhé. Tiếp theo là chữ này và 2 vòng. sẽ buộc một cái đường dây vào như này. Và mình sẽ sử dụng cái phần chữ này và cái phần hạt vòng nhé. Bây giờ thì đầu tiên mình sẽ chọn những cái hạt vòng nhỏ với nhiều cái màu sắc này. Đầu tiên mình sẽ chọn màu trắng này, tiếp theo là màu đỏ này, xanh lá cây nhạt, màu vàng, hồng, xanh dương, giờ mình sẽ sâu các cái hạt vòng bé này vào bên trong cái phần sợi dây nhé. Trắng này, hồng này, màu đỏ, xanh dương, xanh lá cây, tiếp tục thì mình sẽ ghép cái chữ để tạo thành cái phần tên. Tên đây là Rain Black, chữ R. Tên của cái MC này rất là ngắn thôi, nó chỉ có chỉ chữ cái thôi, chữ R, chữ Y, chữ A này, chữ N, chữ Black, C, chữ N, chữ A, chữ R, và chữ cuối cùng sẽ là chữ K nhé. 9 chữ cái để ghép thành cái tên Rain Black. Giờ mình sẽ sâu các cái phần chữ cái này vào trong cái phần dây. Chữ K này. Tiếp theo thì mình sẽ sử dụng cái vòng hình trái tim ấy. Thì mình sẽ sâu vào giữa các cái chữ ấy. bạn vừa xem xong video phân tích của chúng tôi. Sau đây sẽ là video hướng dẫn cách làm một chiếc vòng tay mang tên là Maker's Spear của chúng tôi. Bây giờ các bạn cùng tôi thử nghiệm cách làm nhé. Chữ P, chữ S, và tạo chữ Spear. Sau đó thì mình sẽ ép chữ Makers. Đây sẽ là chữ Spear này. Bây giờ thì để ép chữ Makers thì mình sẽ ép tiếp cái hạt vòng ở giữa. Và trên mình sẽ cho màu sa vào giữa đi, màu xanh. Giờ thì mình sẽ ghép chữ Spear, chữ Makers. Chữ Makers thì có 6 chữ cái, chữ M này, chữ A này, chữ R, chữ C, chữ U và chữ S. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ ghép chữ S đầu tiên.